All right, so thank you so much, everyone. This is our treasurer workshop for CATESOL leaders, and hopefully our CATESOL leaders can, if they have any questions, that they can watch this recording. This is going to be, we have our two treasurers, so one from CATESOL and one from CEF, and we're gonna hopefully give you some guidelines and answer some of your questions. So thank you so much for coming. I'm CATESOL President. Anthony Burik is here also, so thanks to Anthony for joining us, our past president. Vincent is here, CATESOL Treasurer. Judy is coming, and I believe she's CATESOL Education Foundation Treasurer. So if you could, I know we don't have a lot of people who are here yet, but if you could just put your name and your leadership role in the chat, that would be thank you. That will be very helpful so that we know who were actually present at the meeting. Thank you so much. Perfect. So we will go ahead and get started. So the way we're going to do this is I will be just the facilitator. There are a couple items that I will go over, but pretty much we're going to go over different forms. So we do have two forms that we use at CATESOL. So we're going to go over those. So it's an event proposal form and reimbursement form. And Vincent's going to go over those with you. And then when Judy comes, she's going to go over the treasurer forms for the CEF. And then they have their set of guidelines as well. And then I'm going to also go over the insurance document, how when you host an in-person event, it is very important for you to request that document and what kind of information you need to submit in order for us to generate that document for you. And then at the end, we're going to have a short Q&A session at the end. And then as we go through this, we did set aside a Q&A session at the end. However, if you have any questions, if it's urgent and if you just have a question about a specific item during the presentation, I think you can go ahead and ask the question. That way you don't have to wait till the very end. So I will hand this over to Vincent, and let me know, Vincent, because actually the links here are linked out to the forms. So I can stop sharing. You can share. It's totally up to you, however way you want to do it.
Okay, I did just try. I checked to see if I could share. It's not enabled yet. So if you want to enable that, I'll go ahead.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Because you were just on this agenda slide, but
let me
yeah.
Make you our co-host. Okay, you should be able to.
Great. Well, when we have Judy here, it will be just wonderful, because this, I think, is the first time in my years of this organization I will be in the same meeting as a CEF official, acting in her capacity, which is similar to mine as treasurer, in trying to make sure that our treasurer gets to our members as it comes up in their requests. And so, sorry, just to give more of an overview, that was more of a personal sort of thinking out loud bit here. Yes, I will talk about these two forms, the event budget form and the reimbursement form. I think I'll go in reverse, because the reimbursement form is very straightforward. The fact is, though, this is in reverse. Sorry, it's after you've had your event budget approved, and you've gone ahead, you've spent money on behalf of your project to bring CATESOL to your local area, for example. or to your interest group, and you'd like to be paid back. You understood that you would be paid back, and you will be paid back after you go through this reimbursement request process. We're a little slow, but we're trying to be thorough. We require you to, for example, submit receipts. Let's go to the reimbursement form first. Now keep in mind, this is the reverse. Sorry, it's just kind of how my brain works, because I actually work more on this end of seeing that money finds its way back to you. So zooming in, it is actually part of, there's several other steps that happen with regards to the reimbursement process or the closure of an event. I think we now have a step where we ask you to sort of describe, how did the event go? And, do you have any sort of narrative to share with us, maybe even images that could help us, sort of get the word out about how, by our organizations funding you, and funding other, chapters and interest groups like yours, we are doing exactly what we hope, we want to do, which is that, we would support local initiative, local interest and enthusiasm for CATESOL. Yeah. So again, we want to get your money back to you that you had to spend within your budget to do that. We need these absolute basics, required questions. You can't just click submit without these contact details and the amount requested, reason for request, just a one-liner. Of course, your budget is what really makes that relevant there. Saying what it was for. What we prefer is that there are not a whole lot of receipts as separate files. Just, this is a technical thing, we can get beyond it, but if you can put it into one image document, that would be great, or rather PDF, I mean to say, that would be the best. And if there are any comments, then they would go right here. This is a single user request form. So rather than, for example, 2 or 3 people using this single submission to try to write in, multiple emails and multiple physical addresses, please just keep it one submission per requester so that I don't make any mistakes when I put this into our bank. Oh, great. Not only do I have a question from Margie, but we also have Judy. Judy is coming. Yeah, Judy is joining. So Margie, please save me from myself and ask a question.
Well, I didn't know if we should ask these questions as we go along or not. But this one was more like, lots of times we'll share a hotel room or something like that. Like, if in fact 2 people have one receipt for something, or weren't able to get it divided or something like that, should they both submit separately but with the same image document and just note which parts are theirs, or that they split it or something like that?
I think that's a great point to make. And I would say yes. I mean, you share a room, for example, with someone, you write on your copy of the receipt, I'm paying, Margie and I split the room. She's got this half, I've got this half, and I got the cable TV or something, so mine's a little more, she enjoyed the wet bar, who knows? And so that then, I can translate that into dollars. Thank you for that question. Okay, and Judy, yay! CEF is in the house. Woo! Judy, you didn't have your microphone on, but I could tell you were cheering. That was nice.
Hi, my apologies. Thank you, Margie. I got distracted somehow. So, and yeah, Vincent and Anthony, it's nice to see you again. Hi, Burke. It's nice to finally meet you.
I'll just back up so that I can sort of include my enthusiasm for hanging out here in the same space as Judy, who again is, as Song pointed out earlier, is going to be bringing us the other different but similar sort of processes. So just to tell you, Judy, you haven't really missed anything. I actually, for whatever reasons, just my brain was working this way. I was working more on the reimbursement side. So my initial presentation, I'm not going to talk too much longer, honestly, but reimbursement, I was just explaining, hey, you got to get your receipts to us. But I did mention, and now I will go on just to sort of present that, you get your money back if your request has been approved. And so that is, in fact, the first part of these two forms. The event budget form goes first. It comes to us first. So here it is. It's a pretty spare but useful template. You can see that we've made already in this template what we as an organization consider to be the most useful ways of breaking out your event costs, and also we're interested in what your anticipated income would be. I did mention, Judy, I don't have it right with me here, but we do have another form now. Actually, Song, if it wouldn't be too much trouble, if you know where that form is, do you know the one I'm talking about, right, Song?
Yeah,
the one that it,
yeah.
What is that called? What is that form called?
Event report form.
I would love to include that for this video. In fact, if we could just share that, that would be great at some
point.
point.
Could I share it when I share the insurance document?
Please, because again, that just feels like the full circle closes there. Okay, I think that's what I would say. Just to summarize again, first approval and then reimbursement. And I think as we continue, those of you who are watching this, and of course, those of you who are here who have questions, you'll have your questions, some of your questions answered with regards to how CATESOL and CEF are different money. We are different money. And with that said, maybe I will. Oh yeah, please.
Sorry.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
Could you go back to that form?
Yes.
And could I ask you some questions as if I'm one of the leaders putting together an event, because you have 10 more minutes left.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to ask you some questions. For example, who should fill out this form? It says requester. Do you recommend? Does it need to be like a chapter chair, if it's an IG or a committee? So then it can be one of the leaders, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, great.
Leader would be good.
And then income, as far as the income, it's what they put down is just what they expect, what they kind of are only proposing, right? So they wouldn't really get the final numbers. For example, membership registration. Because one of the questions I got, people filling out the event report form, they are like, how much money did we get for the membership or registration? Because I guess they don't really have access to that. So then is it okay that if it's just a ballpark, like what they expect, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And then my next question is donations. Do they put this donation, is this donation like a donation talking about CEF donation, or is this just donations to CATESOL? Like,
yeah, or maybe like in kind, it's like, oh, we won't charge you for the room, or, or we're donating some coffee. That's how this has been in the past. We could maybe make a note to that effect. Might be a good idea.
Great.
Right. I think you're asking this, Song, in comparison to donations that might go to a chapter.
Right.
That would end up in the CEF budget.
Right.
Okay.
So like, for example,
well, in the CEF funds within the chapter fund within CEF's money.
Right, because the speakers, for example, like they know that the honorarium will come from CEF, but they're still going to put it under expenses. But do they need to note that it's coming from CEF? For example, speakers. What do you think, Vincent? Yeah.
Let me put a pin in that question, that we would come back to that. But I'll continue this same topic, if I may. We had actually just a recent, my screen is sort of like got a redraw error here. Let me see if I can not have it be so. Sorry about this, everybody. Where we had a corporate donation to a chapter, and the nature of that donation was perhaps not clear, so that then the question became, well, was it an outright donation and therefore a donation that would need to go through CEF, or was it in fact a payment for some kind of, you know, service of, for example, being able to advertise there in the space, or was it perhaps both, right? And is there some kind of breakdown of that action by the corporate entity, so that, you know, some amount was just raw or pure donation and some part was in compensation for what they requested? So yeah, again, I think that you're putting your finger on something that could cause some uncertainty, and as far as the donations, and then as far as the sort of provenance or the source or the pot that, you know, pays for speakers in particular, I think that, you know, because we have CEF, because we have Judy here, we're going to be, by the end of the day, by the end of the session, maybe, right, clarifying that. Maybe again, there's some more helpful note that could come with this. Does that kind of address what you're going after?
Thank you, Vincent. And I have two more questions for you.
Please.
Sorry.
No, wonderful. I'm just glad I'm able to halfway answer them.
Yeah, and then as far as food, right? Because we've gotten, like, I went to the San Diego chapter event, and it was just so well put together. And I really, really enjoyed the conference, the workshop. And the food was just so nice, because they were just all these grab and go items, and it was not like too fancy, but it was just so nice to have that, like, where we could have the food whenever we wanted to, we could stop by. And Virgil the team did a really good job putting it together with a reasonable amount of, I think, funding. Whereas we're seeing some chapters are asking like thousands, like really, really high funding for their food. And I just want to put it out there, everyone, for our CATESOL leaders. We're a nonprofit, and we really don't have a lot of funding for these events. And this is like the membership money that we collect from our members. And we really want to be mindful of some of the costs. So just those of you who are watching this, please try to budget so that you're not using the funding money, even though we will at certain, we will approve some of the funding requests. However, we will always question, like, is this reasonable for this size conference, right? So sorry to use the San Diego again. For the San Diego conference, we had like 100 people who registered and came to this event. It was well attended, right? And it was just such a, like, well put together. But I think a lot of the people, maybe they're not really familiar, they haven't done this. They're thinking that we do need a lot of money. We need like maybe $20 per head or $50 per head to feed these people, but that's really not why we're doing this, right? So we're not the food service. The main focus has to be our speakers and the conference, the actual workshop, right? So just really wanted to highlight that and let you know. And also thank you, Margie, how some people also, you can get discounted people, like companies donating, right? Because we're a nonprofit, right? Definitely at Alameda, their Red Bay Coffee, we got discount, Starbucks. So these people can donate, right? And so we really need to look for these resources rather than trying to,
and make that part of the success story after the fact of, hey, we have a community partner, you know, and that gets shared in the newsletter, the CATESOL newsletter. And we can point that out to the, you know, the Red Bay Coffee folks, that kind of thing.
Thank you. And then to wrap this up, one last question, Vincent, about the opportunity drawing items. I know that we sent that email out already, but if you could just reiterate.
Well, it's just that in tradition, we have kept, of course, all of the hard work and time that has been contributed to CATESOL. We treated it with gratitude. We hope it's been understood that we are grateful, and that whatever we do in response to what has been offered by our volunteers, we hope that our message of gratitude is received, clearly. If we are a bit, more, I'm trying to get around to the point that, the amount that we offer in terms of, gift cards has been, a very minimal, very tiny bit. We acknowledge that when we have suggested that, we really not offer more than we have traditionally offered by way of gift cards. It's just, we don't mean to, not say thank you to our volunteers, but there have been, this idea that we can offer $100, for example, in a single gift card to a single volunteer as a way of saying thank you for doing, such great, hard work for us for free, right? Well, here's $100 gift card. Obviously that's nothing towards what it means that people have done for us. We basically, yes, it's like, let's understand that we have never gone past a sort of $25 limit on an individual's, thank you gift. So it was a terrible response to your question there, Song. I'm just trying to sort of, follow up on the idea that we have a kind of rule of thumb, an informal rule of thumb that if you're saying thank you to your volunteers with gift cards, we'll just keep it as sort of a uniform $25 per. Is that kind of what we're getting at, Song?
Right. And mostly, most of the time, like at the state conference, I know that we've done gift cards, and at local, regional, or chapter conferences, we really haven't done, we've only done like opportunity drawings, but for the volunteers, we did like chocolate, flowers, wine, like we did those. I think those would be great way to show our appreciation as an organization rather than actual like a gift card. So I really wanted to use this opportunity. For those of you who are watching this, please keep that in mind, that we are using the CATESOL fund. This is not like any individual's money. So don't decide like, oh, I feel like this person deserves this amount of gift card. Please don't. And then, so that was the one big issue that we just had recently. So just wanted to share that. Yeah, thank you so much, Vincent.
Absolutely.
And, yeah. So before we go on to Judy, because I know Judy has her also forms, is there anyone with any questions?
Please.
Yes.
Yeah, quick question. Yeah, because it's kind of will be following up on what Vincent showed on the form, and then I think most probably Judy will explain. And I want to thank Judy and Vincent a lot, and of course, Song, to you and Anthony too. Like, because we've been emailing, messaging a lot about the financials of our events, transactions is always kind of confusing. And one thing I think in the form confused us, and then also when we want to get the reimbursement was the donations and sponsorships. My question will be, and I think Judy may help us understand too, because the difference, the donations and sponsorships, and kind of how the corporate, like what Vincent was telling about corporates, like when they want to send money, what we faced is a challenge that they face because they don't have CATESOL as an account. So they didn't want to do the check. They didn't want to send a check payment. they want to kind of pay with a credit card. And Judy is here too, like credit card, like the CEF has ability that we can, they can do credit card transaction. So, and I'm here because open and honest way to share with you, because we were kind of in the situation, hey, they want to get, you know, they want to pay for some services like Vincent said, but they want to pay with the credit card. So some of them we directed to Judy, and Judy helped me understand like what we can offer them. But I don't know if anything lost in the translation, like did we do something wrong? I don't know if you know, some money should have been maybe sent as a check to CATESOL, but sent to CEF as credit card donations, and that part is really confusing. We did a great event. Thanks for, you know, all the support, but I'm still like question mark. I don't know if we did everything right. We got sponsorships. One couple places sent check. The other places said, oh, it will take us forever to send a check. We want to pay by credit card. CEF has our account, so we have an account in CEF, so we directed that payment. So, but I don't know if it's, you know, I'm just open and honest here, very transparent, and would love to hear. I think that will be really helpful to clear for the future events. Like, what is the difference? Where should the money go, and how should it go?
Right. So Margie, I know you have your hand up, just really quick. So typically for our state event, our CATESOL website, we have a place where they can go and actually pay with the credit card if it's a sponsorship. However, for the state events or regional events, we haven't set up any payment pages with Marcia. So that has been the issue where we could only accept checks. So that I wanted to let you know. For the bigger event like a state conference, we do have the ability to accept a sponsorship through CEF and then donation and a sponsorship through CATESOL. But I'll have a Margie answer also. I think she has it.
Well, I really was just going to say the same thing, Sung, but I'm not sure why we couldn't. All we did for the sponsorships, and maybe we don't want to open a can of worms, and I get it. It is more work. And it's not necessarily work by me. But what we did is, as part of, we created in the back end of the MemberLeap registration, we just created a new kind of category. And so that category was a sponsor. And then they could pay by check or by credit card, which MemberLeap can do. So you know, that might be a possibility. The other thing is to talk to Judy about ways that we can make things work. You know, if somebody wants to donate something through CEF, but I don't know if corporations can. We were having a conversation about this ourselves, about what we do for corporate things. You know, if a corporation wants to make a donation, I guess they can. But if, you know, I don't know that it's impossible to do sponsorships for the other conferences. It's a question of whether we have the person power to make that additional account on the back end. But it's all part of it was part of event registration. So I think we were just creating a new event category. But
yeah, and then I wonder if we can just make that without a specific event. It would just stay as a sponsorship, like a button, and anyone who would like to do it can donate it, like submit their payment through sponsorship, but then they are going to specify for what event. And then on the back end, maybe our treasurers can look for that payment, and then so that may be, so that we don't have to create individual ones for individual events. Do you think that's possible, maybe?
Well, I'm not sure what we're allowed to do tax-wise, so that would be the question. You know, like CEF can do that because they can take these donations. I mean, I guess we can take donations, they can't get a tax write-off. So it's also a question of whether they're doing it for some sort of tax write-off. But when we had sponsorships for the conference, yeah, we just created a little packet of what they got for this sponsorship.
Right.
And, you know, and they just filled it, you know, they just clicked on it as part of the MemberLeap. And Vincent, I think you were part of that. You've done that a little bit on the back end.
Yes,
Maybe this is
that's right.
something that we all could talk to Marcia about in terms of what Memberly allows us to do. And then also, Vincent, you would probably need to check if we had some sort of general use thing and then they were clicking what it was for. Is that okay, given our nonprofit categorization, or is that difficult and we need to go through CEF for that?
And it's how the I'm just writing the statement right now. A matter again of what proportion of the corporate entity's payment is going toward donation versus what services they are paying for, right? Advertising, having their logo, putting in a flyer. I mean, those things then are fixed costs, I guess, that's easier to identify. And if they want to go above and beyond, let's say 300, are they required to make an additional separate payment? And just in the chat, I was just agreeing with everything Song was saying, and that you were saying, Margie, I forgot, because most of the time money that I'm handling is coming in through the PO box. But sure enough, I did work with Marcia on putting together those various packages. But I will say, like you, it's sort of like, oops, I don't want to necessarily make work for anybody out of hand. Having something that would be a perennial form, like Song suggested, would be great. But it still goes to these questions if it's like, well, what's the money for it again? So I think I'm gonna switch off my microphone
again. Thank you, Virgil. Yeah, so sorry that like our answer is not we cannot give you the definite answer, but that's where we are as a CATESOL. So like again, for the big state conference, we do that, but for our local events, it's a little bit hard because we don't have the manpower, because there's like only very few people having access or like working on this member lead. Yeah, with that being said,
I think it is nice though. I think it is nice. It gives us some things to investigate to see what's possible. And maybe it's not, right? And I understand the manpower, person power issue.
Yeah.
But it does bring up some interesting questions. And it again brings up that line between what goes to CEF and what goes to CATESOL, and how we can work together more symbiotically.
Okay.
So,
great.
Boom. And sorry, I talked long enough that Anthony thought of something.
Anthony.
Yeah, thank you. Vincent, would you mind just putting up the form again, the request form again? So I just wanted to, I think we've talked about a few things, but I just want to kind of reiterate a few things, just so it's clear, because I know sometimes, we all have kind of different lengths of time in CATESOL, and we sort of remember how things used to be, and are they still like it? Do we still do business that way?
Right.
So just a couple of things, I think, especially on the income side here. So first of all, kind of to a couple of things that have been mentioned already, I think for us, most importantly, like it's really important that for any kind of event, that we either are breaking even, or if we can make money, that's fantastic. But we're trying not to lose money, right? Because as Song and others have said, we don't have infinite financial resources here. So that's what the hope is, I think, overall with this report, is that, we'll have if a group of people are organizing some sort of an event, we'll have a sense of how they plan to manage it. Does it look like they're going to either break even or make money, or are there serious financial questions that we can address right away? For example, like gift cards, amounts, and things like that. Things that can be addressed early on, early enough so that the event planning can proceed once those questions are answered. The registration, I think, is always the most difficult part, right? Because first of all, you don't know how many people are going to come to your event. I mean, it's you can estimate to the best of your ability. Burju and the San Diego chapter just had an event with 100 people. So hopefully, for the next one, maybe they could count on a similar number, for example. So there's a little bit of a historical record there that they can fall back on. But I know that, for some chapters, they haven't had an in-person event for a long time, so they don't know how many people are going to show up, right? So the registration is always kind of the best guess possible, really. But the idea is to really think about your event in a registration in a couple of different ways. One is that, in general, in CATESOL in the last few years, we've really tried to lessen the registration fees, right? Starting at the state conference level. And so, especially last year, a lot of effort was put into charging sort of the absolute bare minimum registration that needed to get charged. And even then, it might be a little bit of expensive for folks, but this is our premier event. And so, this will be the event where we charge the most money for a registration. So that's really important for chapters and others to know, is that when it comes down to your event, you can't, well, my opinion, but you can't really charge like $100 per person, right? Because that's almost like what it would cost to go to the state conference. And the state conference is at least a 2-day, sometimes 3-day event for people, depending on their attendance. Many chapter events and such are like 1-day events. So really think about a couple of things, trying to keep the registration down as low as possible. But again, at a level where you feel confident that it will cover the costs of the event. So that's always tricky, but to the best of your ability. And remember that we do have different levels of attendance, right? So we have members who we should always try to aim to keep the registration rate down as low as possible. We do have non-members, so they are not members of CATESOL. They are welcome to our events, but they should pay a higher rate than members for sure. And there might be, depending on how you set it up, but there should be kind of a significant, I'll just put significant in quotation marks, a significant difference between what it costs a member to attend versus what it costs a non-member to attend. We also want to encourage graduate students to come to our events, so there also should be a student rate. So that's kind of the starting point, 3 different rates. Student rate is also going to be low as well. But in general, we're wanting to kind of figure out the rates that are going to make the most sense to encourage people to come, but also cover our costs. So it's a little bit tricky, but on this end, the treasurers and folks who can review the report are certainly. I mean, we want to work with chapters and whomever else is organizing events to really figure out what that balance is going to be. So I would say that's probably the most important thing. I think there was something else I was going to say that I can't remember, but just on the sponsorship question, I think something that Song and I have talked about, and I think we've been talking about it, but it does require some more research. But basically, could we create kind of an ongoing version of the sponsorship page that we have set up for the state conference and have that kind of reserved for chapter events and other events? And in a sense, kind of make sponsorship consistent across events. So if it's a vendor coming to a chapter event, wherever it is, San Diego, Orange County, Bay Area, a capital area, that all those vendors would always pay, like, say, $100 for a table. Doesn't matter what event it is, right? So maybe if we try to be consistent about it, but also make it easy for vendors and others to make those sponsorship payments, because we do want to collect that money to the best of our ability, then but again, as we've been talking, a little bit more research, I think, but I think there's an end in sight. I think we can figure it out. And that way, Burju, it'll make it a lot easier for you at the chapter level to be able to point sponsors to that in that direction and say, okay, if you want to help us out with sponsorship, here's a place to go. So
thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Thank you. All right, good. Thank you so much. Now I'm gonna hand this over to Judy next, so that Judy can share her forms. I'm gonna make you a co-host. So Judy, you should be able to share your screen, or would you like me to share?
I can do that. Thank you. I can do that.
Yeah.
And these are really good questions. I think I wasn't even aware of some of these kind of issues. So to that question about, for example, sponsorship, I think one of the things is that we might not have like a definition of defining what a sponsor versus a donation is. And so perhaps one of the miscommunication is because when I think of a sponsor for CEF, a sponsor just really means that it's a corporation, not an individual, but because for CEF, all donations they're all still considered donations, but we cannot, CEF cannot receive payments for goods and services such as exhibitor tables or advertising brochures. And so we cannot accept payment for that kind of thing, right? We can only accept pure donations where no goods or services were received in exchange for that charitable contribution. Today I would like to share with you the two things. One of them, the first thing is the donations overview, and then the other one is also a funding request overview. So let's start with donations first. Right. And can you see my screen over there? Okay, Thank you. So really, there are, donations, I just mentioned, they must be pure donations. So it's not payments for services and goods. And so the fastest way I would imagine to donate to CEF is by the website. And so the website, when you go to CATESOLeducationfoundation.org, you can look for the donate button. It's right, on almost every page on one of the tabs. And it gives information over here. And so there is payment by, you can do payment by check, or you can do a payment through the website with a debit card, a credit card, or if you have a PayPal account. So there are multiple options over here. Now, there are also instructions for earmarking. So if for example, the donor would like to specify a purpose for earmarking, means specifying a purpose. So if they want to earmark the donation for, let's say, a specific chapter, then they can note that, and then that fund will be placed into that chapter's account. If somebody would like to, for example, donate 5 memberships, for a group of teachers, then they can write a note for that as well. And I would, send the money to CATESOL, Vincent, and who would then provide instructions to the registration coordinator to handle that. If I come back over here, so that's on the website. Again, so here are the main methods. One is you can go to the website for several types of online payment options, PayPal, credit card, and debit card. And if it wants to be earmarked, then you just add it to the write a note field. Write a note field, or it'll say note to your donation, but it's the same thing. It's just a note, okay? With those instructions. By check can be sent to the PO box, and if the donor wishes to earmark it, they just need to, on the left side of the check, there might be, on a personal check anyways, there's like that blank line. You can easily just write it there, or you can add it on a separate note. It doesn't have to be formal, just so I know where to place that if the donor wishes it to be placed in a certain fund. Another option that has been a little bit dormant is a Facebook fundraiser. So CATESOL Education Foundation is listed as a nonprofit in Facebook. And so if anybody who's interested in doing a fundraiser, maybe people have done this before, for example, for their birthday. So have a birthday fundraiser and donate that and request that their acquaintances and friends and family through Facebook donate to CATESOL. And then if that's the case, donations to CEF through Facebook are anonymous. So I will never see who actually donated it and how there's no way to earmark it. But if the fundraiser person, the person who is hosting this fundraiser, sends me a screenshot of the fundraiser description and total amount raised, and just add it to the CEF funding request form that I'm going to show on the next slide, I'd be happy to make sure that that amount gets earmarked for whatever purpose that birthday host or whatnot would like to see it. Okay. Now, CEF only accepts charitable contributions because we are a 501c3 corporation, charity. And so we can accept charitable combinations. And what this means is that in order for it to remain 100% tax exempt, they have to be pure donations where no goods or services were received in exchange for that donation. So no, you can, of course, the donor can be appreciated, like thanked at an event and whatnot, but they cannot receive actual advertising benefits. Okay, and these donations are tax deductible for donors. Now, regarding organizations and companies, I'm not sure how each company does their bookkeeping. So I'm not sure if they need CEF to write a letter of acknowledgement for them. But if they do want a letter of acknowledgement from CEF, they would need to donate that amount to CEF. And then we can write a letter of acknowledgement that it is tax deductible. Okay. And a reminder that that no goods or services were received in return for the donation. So there's no endorsements that are allowed. For example, you cannot recommend the products at an event. And you cannot offer free advertising benefits for them, as I mentioned before. Okay. And so I hope that answers some of the questions that were about donations and sponsorships. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, Judy. Yeah. So quick question. So when you say they cannot, so it's interesting because when I say they cannot receive free advertising, I think maybe I misunderstood some things. Like I know you helped me a lot and we emailed back and forth, and I'm kind of trying to really understand well, because and if we need to correct anything, we will, or for the next events, whatever we have to do, we do it right. But for so if it is not if they pay the sponsorships, there's some prizes for certain things, so they can, like a brochures or so if you have a program and they have a half page or a full page advertising in our program, in digital program, let's say we have a program, so it's not free. Like when I say free exchange of a free goods or services, they're actually, paying some money for those services. They're not getting it free. I guess that's the part that is confusing, because when you say they can't get any exchange, any free goods and services, but they're not free. They're actually paying for that. So they are kind of donating. I know it's kind of based on a price. So we're telling them, hey, our half page, full page, that's what we're charging you. Let's say $100, $150. So they're getting that from us, but not free. So, but that's not a donation, because, okay.
Mm-hmm. Because that would actually be payment for that service.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask something here to kind of clarify all this? Because when and maybe we've been doing it wrong, but my understanding is, Judy, I get what you're saying, that if somebody is doing the sponsorship or the donation through CEF, because that is a tax write-off for that kind of a donation, there are more restrictions. But if in fact somebody sponsors, which is why I wanted to look into this from the CATESOL side of things, if somebody wants to sponsor the state conference, let's say, and thank you, Anthony, for responding to my question in the chat, that because they're not getting a tax write-off. So if you gave both a tax write-off and a free advertisement, they're kind of double dipping, right? But what's happening with CATESOL, if they're sending something, if they're sponsoring an event and they're paying the money to CATESOL, not through the Ed Foundation, right? But they're doing a sponsorship for a conference, they're not getting a tax write-off for that. That's not a tax exempt donation. So if we offer them a package, they're actually kind of buying the package, and then they're donating some additional money usually, right? On top of that, like we're charging them more than what it would really cost to do all that, which is why they get their name up on the you know on the you know the PowerPoint slides or whatever it is, right? But I think in that case, and correct me if I'm wrong, and Judy, you might know this, we could give them a half-page ad as part of that, because it's not going through CEF, it's going directly through CATESOL. And these are the kinds of issues that we really need to make clear to people. And we really then strategize about what are the best ways to handle certain things, because we don't want to turn a bunch of money down from an organization because they want a half-page ad, right? We want to be able to do that. So we really want to strategize about that. But somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding at this point, that
Right.
there are far fewer things to worry about in terms of what would go into a sponsorship package if somebody were going through directly through CATESOL versus a donation to CEF that has a tax write-off.
Right. So Margie, I think you put it really, thank you, Vincent. I think Margie put it really well. So they cannot double dip. So if they want to tax write-off, they go to CEF and then they donate the money and that's it. If they want to do something during the conference, they want some kind of advertising, then they come to CATESOL and they buy the sponsorship package, but they don't get the tax write-off. So I think that's where the clear line is. However, for the chapter conference, again, we couldn't provide that memberly page where our sponsors could buy the sponsorship packages. Usually during our state conferences, we do. We have many different tiers where they can buy the premium or elite. And so, but during the chapter conference, we really couldn't provide those. And I think that's where it got really confused, or people got really confused. So like what Judy said, yeah, if they wanted to do a half-page ad, then we cannot put their money in the CEF because they get audited. And that's why Judy's on top of everything, because they don't want to get audited. Right? Did we answer your question, Virtue?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, Judy, yours next.
No, those are, thank you
thank
for, these are great questions for us to be discussing. Then let's go on to the funding request form. So the funding request form is the funding, why? Oh, okay, just go. All right, whatever. So the funding request form is for any kind of event or reimbursement. It's the same form. And here's what it currently looks like. I think the top part is okay, with several options over here, for different payment types and documentation. So like it's really for record keeping. And so these are some items over here. Now the form, I think many of you guys have seen before. Please do let me know if you have any questions about it. I'm happy to help with that always. Now the recommended submission time is really, there are really 3 types of funds that might be of interest to CATESOL, right? So there are funds that are managed by CEF, So, for example, that fund for honoraria is a memorial fund, the Stephen Sloan Memorial Fund, in fact, that is managed by CEF. So if it's managed by CEF, it requires voting. Okay, so that's why it might take some time. Discretionary funds are when the fund coordinator or the fund coordinators or organization has control. They manage it. So let's say, for example, the chapter accounts are discretionary funds, and so is the and there is also a general CATESOL support fund. Right. And that one is, for example, if memberships, if somebody wants to donate money for memberships, for CATESOL memberships, then I put the money in that fund temporarily as a placeholder. And then, but really that CATESOL support fund always means a zero unless you wish otherwise. But, because whatever fund goes in there, I send a check to the CATESOL PO box. Okay, so if it's memberships, then I'll send it to, for example, to CATESOL PO box. So recommended submission time is 3 months prior to the event, right? Especially if voting is required, because recently we've been having CEF has been having board meetings every other month. And we have to vote on things, for example, the honoraria. So in order for us to be able to, in order for there to be enough time for us to add that request to the agenda for the board meeting, it should be at least 3 months ahead of time so that we can add it to it before the next meeting and discuss it if you would like to get a response before the event. Now, if it is a discretionary fund, such as a chapter account, right, then voting is not necessary, because that is the chapter's account, and they can just use it as they decide together. So all they have to do is complete that funding request form, and I'll just send out the check to them, whoever needs to be reimbursed. Are there any questions or comments or suggestions about either one of these forms?
I just want to add really quickly, I know we are running out of time, but really quickly, last time we met, Judy, Vincent, and we met, and we decided to shorten the mailing the honoraria check. It used to come from CEF to CATESOL, and then CATESOL mailed out those checks. It actually took really long time. So we decided to actually shorten it by making CEF actually sending out those checks to the speakers. So that will shorten the time, how long it would take to reach the speakers. But then CEF will make sure that CATESOL, we're like CC'd in that communication so that we're all in the know. Okay. And then if you want to go on to the next one, Judy, thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay. Anthony, yes.
Yeah. So I remembered from previously something I wanted to say, but I'm going to tie it into what Judy just presented. So just so all the chapters are very clear. So some, but not all chapters currently have a fund over at the foundation. How they actually originally got there, I'm not sure that anybody really knows, but the point is that it's always good to ask first to the foundation if the chapter has a fund and how much money is there. And then what I wanted to say earlier was kind of on this, so this is one potential source of money that a chapter could tap into for a chapter event. Back on the seed money idea and such, just so everybody's clear. So at one time in the past, each of the chapters actually used to have their own bank account, for lack of a better term. So a decision was made a number of years ago to get rid of that kind of financial structure and basically make one CATESOL bank account or one CATESOL financial account. So what that means is that chapters and others can make use of that money, right? Filling out forms and making requests and all that. But I just want folks, especially who work with chapters, to be clear that when we talk about sources of money, one is possibly sitting over at the foundation that you need to find out. But in general, chapters are able to make use of the CATESOL financial account. So, but the way that we know what a chapter might need, including maybe some possible seed money just to get an event off the ground, is to fill out that form that we've been talking about earlier to say that, you know, we think that this is what's going to come in for registration, what might come in for sponsorships, but we know that to get things kind of off the ground, we need, let's say, $200, whatever, so that we can reserve a space, or if we need to make a down payment, or, you know, whatever the case may be. So just so folks understand that there's no like chapter bank account sitting anywhere. It's the CATESOL account that is available for all of us, but we just need to, especially when it comes to matters of money, we want there to be a process. That's what we're trying to explain. And then hopefully by filling out that form, something I kind of understand now better after today's meeting is that maybe we need to attach some instructions to that form. I think it sounds like it's a long time coming, but I think finally I understand, like, okay, let's put this down on a piece of paper, whatever. But I just want folks to be clear. And again, the foundation is a potential source of money. We just need to be, you know, figure out what that looks like through a request. So
thank you. Margie has your hand up.
I know it's late. I wanted to say also that the foundation, as Judy mentioned, has two different types of possible money, right? So, you know, because some of the money has already gone back to CATESOL from that support fund, and that's one of the things that the chapters can end up asking for some seed money from, or, you know, whatever, right? There's a, hopefully they're also, CATESOL is also working on coming up with like an overall budget. But to remember that the funds, and Judy, correct me if I'm wrong, the money that you have, that chapters, for example, have in their specific accounts, they can spend that as they see fit. And as Judy said, you don't need to have that voted on, but also you can use it for different types of things. I think when you ask for money from CEF, from their general set of funds, we do want to make sure that the money is for academic and professional development purposes. So it's difficult to ask for things like food, money for food, right? Yes, of course, that's part of the whole thing. You could possibly use your chapter fund from CEF for some food. Correct me if I'm wrong, Judy, because that money is just sitting there with CEF, but it's actually at the discretion of the chapter. But if you're asking for something like, we'd like $400 to help run this whole event, and it could go to, you know, they're going to need something more specific, like for honoraria, for very, very specific professional development type activities, as opposed to something like a social event where there's going to be some food. Right.
Thank you.
So that they're very, you know, so really talk with Judy about what is and isn't okay in terms of, because again, CEF is more restricted in by its bylaws about what it can and cannot fund.
Right.
Is that correct, Judy? Did I interpret all the things you've told me over the past couple of years correctly?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and really what happens is that I mean, it sounds to me that, like, you know, there are, just like Anthony said, that there is a main CATESOL fund account, not, you know, separately, right? You know, and so for main event expenses such as food or facilities, you know, things like that. And then it's actually probably in the best interest of the chapter to request those funds from CATESOL first, and then reserve their chapter account for other purposes, you know, perhaps food for a board member, social or something like that. I don't know, or refreshments at a meeting or whatever, so these are some ideas over there. And then so that way, because chapters are not expected to use only their CEF account, right? They are, as Anthony mentioned, that they are actually virtually all of their expenses are actually supported by CATESOL.
Right.
Is that right?
Like, yeah, that's why we asked them for them to submit their budget proposal. But Judy, I have two questions for you really quick. So if they want to use their chapter fund that's in that account with CEF, they can still fill out that form and get that money, get it reimbursed, right? Right. And then the second thing is, I know that for the honoraria, there was a thing about if your speaker wanted to donate it back to the chapter, could you elaborate on that, how they can have that? And then how that money can automatically get deposited back to the chapter account as CEF?
Yes, so that's a great question, because that's a really common way to grow the funds in the chapter account, for instance. And so if the honoraria is approved by CEF, right, then of course that money is to that speaker, right? And so the speaker has the option of receiving that money, or redonate it to any purpose they want. Right. So, and oftentimes the chapter can ask them, would you like us to send you a check, or would you like to redonate this amount to the chapter, for instance? That's, so that's possible. They can ask that. And if the speaker agrees to that, then on the CEF funding request form, the person who's filling it out can explain that they want it redonated. And in fact, on the form itself, in the payment type, it is payment type number 2. The payee wishes to redonate the requested amount to CEF. And the selected CEF account, and there's a link to the website over here, or other purposes describing the special instructions, they can just put that in, for instance, but often, so that's something like, and so once that happens, I can actually just transfer the money from instead of sending it out to the person, I can just send it direct. I can just put it in the chapter's account directly.
Right. So you don't even mail it out. You just hold on to the, right? Yeah. So that's actually saves, like, if the speaker wants to donate it back, then there's really nothing's happening. Just Judy's moving that money from the honoraria check just back to the chapter account.
Yeah, so and that's to keep it simple for both CEF and for the person who's donating, because they don't have to write out another check to donate to the chapter.
Thank you, Judy. Okay, so I know we're almost like, I'm gonna. Yes.
Sorry, can I just ask Judy a follow-up question about that?
Oh, sure.
So Judy, if a person does do that, if they decide to put their money back into the foundation, do they get a receipt for that?
They can. I mean, technically it's technically their money that they're donating. So yes, they can. And so what happens is that with donations, the CEF president writes acknowledgement letters. So, and the acknowledgement letters are off. I mean, there might be a little bit of lag time, but definitely the donor should receive an acknowledgement letter by the end of the fiscal year. No, I'm sorry, the calendar year, because this is for taxes, right? And that way, and technically speaking, it's actually the donor's responsibility to make sure that they get a letter of acknowledgement if they wish to use that donation as a tax deduction. So if if, for example, the acknowledgement letter is somehow does not reach that person, they are always welcome to reach out to the CEF president or me, and we can make sure that we send another copy of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. That's a great question. So before we end, I just wanted to share the insurance document. So when when there is an event, we can process the insurance document for you, especially when the event is in person. Make sure that you provide us the exact business name, full address, and then the date and time of the event. That way, I need those very specific information for us to generate that insurance document for you. And if you could just send it to, thank you so much for coming. If we can, you can send it to our treasurer, and then you can CC the president, catesolsong@gmail.com. That way, whoever is available, we can process it, because Vincent has the access, and then also I have the access to that, the insurance account. And then I also wanted to share the CATESOL event form, where you can answer the questions about your event. Again, we're really not looking at the exact numbers. We just want to see how the event went. So just, I know some questions you're like, you may not know exactly how many people registered for the event or then became new members, but we just want just approximate so that we can share your success at our board meeting. And I know San Diego chapter already submitted one, so thank you so much. And then also, if you could share some pictures so that we can share those pictures during our board meeting as a success, because we would really like to encourage everyone to do that. And then one last thing is, it's especially the income. It's hard because a sponsorship, some of the things you may not have the exact figure, and you can just note in there that such and such is supposed to come in for sponsorship, because you don't know really. And then you can say how many people attended, but you don't really know how many people registered. That's okay, as long as you just have the general idea of, like, for example, San Diego chapter had 100 attendees. Something like that would be great to know, and then I'll be happy to share that information. Anything else before we stop recording? I think that's it. So thank you so much. I'll stop recording. So thank you everyone for watching this video.